Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to another episode of Shift Happens with myself, Darian Weems.
Welcome back, guys. Tal Singh with J&S. Shift happens.
Yep. And today we have kind of a light docket here. We're going to talk through Honda launching some quadricycle kind of urban cargo stuff for last mile delivery. Gonna dive into a little bit of technology today, talking about OpenAI dropping their new agent feature, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with Honda, I believe, or sorry, UPS, talking about how robots are speeding up their returns by 40%. So stay tuned. Okay, so yeah, Tal, kind of an interesting looking delivery mechanism there for Honda.
Yeah,
Although it makes a ton of sense in like dense urban areas, you think about New York, San Francisco, really any like densely populated urban area, having that type of a vehicle probably makes it a lot easier, and you could probably deploy a lot more of those in kind of an urban setting for last mile delivery. This would like once that tech gets there, you'll probably see a deluge of a lot of your Amazon packages, FedEx packages, a lot of that stuff will probably start to come on these types of vehicles. I wonder how much these things cost because if it's like how much is a step van probably like a new step van's probably like 60 grand maybe.
yeah,
And I don't know the prices on any of these things, but let's say that thing's gonna cost you, 15 to $20,000, right? Like the CapEx needs are just way lighter. Obviously, you can only carry certain types of packages, but I think we're seeing that last mile delivery kind of continuing to innovate a bit there.
yeah. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, wonder how much it costs. I'm checking. I mean, it goes up to 12 miles per hour, 650 pounds. We've seen the drone deliveries. Seems like most of these, companies are testing out different things to, I mean, just look at this, right? The other day I was thinking, before COVID,
Uh-huh.
were we door dashing? Were we doing? How much Zoom calls were we doing? Look at the effects that COVID really had on all of us, right? Work from home took a big rise. Half of the real estate is empty in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. Warehousings are sitting empty, and the whole industries kind of took a big shift. I mean, anything that caught your attention? Those are like pretty big things that have happened.
Yeah, there has been a big shift, certainly kind of during COVID, right, post-COVID. I do think there's going to be a slight shift kind of for certain types of roles back to an in-office kind of a scenario. But I also think with which we'll talk about a little bit later here, like as these agents and different types of workflows continue to get better, there will just be certain types of jobs that are going to be less necessary to have people in the office for. And then over time, certainly less necessary to even have people doing in general. And so, the delivery stuff though, going home to your home, I think is going to be one of those things that continues for quite some time. Like there's nothing I see a lot of memes about, the guy who like orders a burrito from Chipotle and spends like $40 on it, like to get it delivered to the house. Um, and I think there'll probably be some amount of innovation around food mobility, what we'll call like food mobility. And then like we're saying, the last mile delivery stuff. So, they're kind of trying to innovate through to understand. And I think they're just trying stuff out. Like, is it going to be drones? Is it going to be kind of like this strange e-bike kind of solution? Is it just going to be the normal form factor of a step van, but just electrified? And I think a lot of that stuff's going to get worked out over the next, 5 years. And probably on the other side of it, you're gonna see some version of this technology take off from like a last mile delivery perspective. And then there'll be, I would imagine some things are going to be, you know, like mixed and matched in there, right? Like you'll have people going out and doing deliveries, maybe on the e-bike. You'll have kind of the larger packages going out and on the step van. And then you'll probably see drone delivery for like that, like under an hour delivery, probably on like, like I'm a guy, I take a lot of vitamins and stuff. And so sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, "Ah, shit, where's my like magnesium or my zinc?" Right. And so it would be great if I could get magnesium like very quickly in an hour or so there. And so we'll probably see a good mixture of this stuff kind of come together as we move forward for that last mile delivery stuff. So what
Really?
is this we're looking at here?
Just the AI agents. They're kind of showing the new rollout on what we were just talking about.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I guess good a time as any kind of. Did you watch their little presentation? So just to lay it out, today, uh, OpenAI dropped a new feature, which is essentially an agent that can kind of control a computer. There was a feature in there that they rolled out earlier in the year called Operator, where the AI could control your computer, and then deep research, which I guess is like an agentic capability to go out and scrub the web. I actually use that feature so much. I use it for almost everything now. Uh,
Operator.
Not Operator. I haven't used Operator a ton, but deep research is certainly something that I use a ton just because you can kind of set some parameters of stuff that you need from the internet, and then it'll go off and take 20 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever, however long it takes to grab that stuff and then bring it back to you. And so they are pretty much merging those things in order to make their first go at like an AI agent. What were your first thoughts from that?
Yep. I mean, this year has been a big shift, right, with AI. First, I think the operator rolled out, in January, and then February, deep research rolled out. And, all we've been hearing the news about AI agents all year, and then now finally AI agents are rolling out. So, a lot of people are not even, prepared of what ChatGPT can do, but let alone these functions, right? If you really do your research, like you and I were both encouraging our team to start using it on a daily basis, and how much can it do? Go through a bunch of documents, and the main thing that what Sam was showing and his team was showing was like you can pretty much plan a whole trip, book tickets, what kind of clothes you need to be wearing. Just look at that. How much of work a human has to take to plan something out. And I'd be curious to somebody to because I remember back in 2018 when I got married, it was a big headache planning your wedding, right? Like, that it just like right now, man, I think like more than half of your headache is not gone. If you
Yeah.
some people will like really use it to the maximum capacity. I feel like again, takes a lot of the legwork out of your planning and organizing, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people do with this technology.
Yeah, we're gonna see people supercharging, man, supercharging themselves and their workflows. To your point earlier, throughout the year, there's been a lot of talk of agents, but I would say there haven't been a lot of like true agents in the marketplace, all the time testing out stuff and trying stuff. And most of what I've seen are like automated workflows that are empowered by LLMs, by AI as we know it today. But this seems kind of like the first time where you could say, hey, you do this, and it'll just go do the thing and take the time that it needs to do the thing, which I think is really novel and interesting. And I think kind of like the first true agent in the marketplace, if you will.
I do want to hear your take on this from the book Zero to One.
Yep.
Pretty interesting take here from the dot-com mania,
Uh-huh.
1998 to 2000.
Uh-huh.
Dot-com mania was a tense but short 18 months of insanity from 1998 to 2000. It was Silicon Valley's gold rush. There was money everywhere and no shortage of money out there. Often sketchy people to chase it. Every week, dozens of new startups compared to throw the most lavish launch party. Landing parties was much more rare. Paper millionaires would rack up thousands of dollar dinner bills, and so it got me thinking while reading this chapter. Same thing's happening right now with all these AI companies, right? I mean, what do you think? Is it like all the money that's being thrown in AI? I know the technology is, much better now and what it can do, but you know, we also do hear a lot of these AI companies are, losing money and then they're gonna probably go out of business. But I mean, I want to hear your take kind of from the dot-com bubble that happened to now with all this AI technology.
I think with every big revolution, there are a lot of people that try to build companies, and then there's a lot of money that tries to finance those companies in order to get the gains that are going to come from that technological revolution, right? And so, in the dot-com boom, we had this thing that was like novel. It's like, oh no, it's the internet. Like anyone can go online and they can have a business and they can transact with people, and we can remove a lot of the manual physical processes that we're using. Now, that didn't necessarily mean that every one of those companies was going to work out, or every one of those companies was going to have a solution that was like good for the marketplace. But I think, sitting here 25 years later after that, I think it's pretty clear that that boom was a good boom, right? Like we're sitting here on the internet having an interview that's being recorded that we're going to put out on a on a platform for people to watch, right? We have our, Kim, who's here, right, in another country doing the same thing, right? And we get emails every day about people who want to use our services and who want to, have us do services for them. And so the internet was a hit, right? Now, all of the companies that raised a bunch of money during that first phase of the internet, weren't hits, right? But the internet as a trend was a hit. And I think the same is true for AI. It is a hit, right? It's going to be a hit. Now, that doesn't mean every AI company, every founder, every service that's, AI right now is going to be a hit in 25 years. But I can almost guarantee you that and it's probably going to happen a lot faster this time around, right? So I can guarantee you, sometime in the future, a fair amount of our lives are going to be aided, driven by, services stacked on top of AI. I think that's a fundamental truth of kind of the direction that we're heading. So, the way companies are structured is going to fundamentally change. The way people work on an individual level is going to fundamentally change. And I think it's a good thing. I think there couldn't be anything more powerful, to the point about some companies that are, like there's this whole kind of category inside of AI right now that is it's mostly about AI coding, right? And so I'm not sure how deep you're in the weeds, but there's this company called Windsurf, which is like it's an AI coding thing, right? That coders use, or people who don't know how to code use, in order to create code, and that whole product is just stacked on top of like an open source version of the product, right? And they were about to get acquired, I think, for like 200 or 300 million, and that deal had been in the works for a while, I think, from OpenAI. And I think in this last week, it just came out that like the deal fell through, right? And
Oh
I think
yeah.
it's just indicative of the times we're in, where it's like there's these use cases, and I think we're early enough that like no one knows how much of the use case every platform is going to be able to use, right? So if you go back to, I started using ChatGPT in like late 2023, early 2024, and it's like if you look at what the product was then versus what the product is now, um, it is a completely different thing, right? I was just telling my wife this week, like what it's able to do now, internally, to aid your workflow is actually crazy, right? The ability to, like, now it can store internal information. It's got this like infinite memory thing happening. So I started doing this workflow now where I have this like internal, because inside of ChatGPT now, there's kind of like an internal Google Doc workspace, if you will, right? And so you could tell it, hey, remember this prompt for these things, and remember this prompt for these things. And then now I used to have to go and find the prompt and copy and paste it and blah, blah, blah. But now I just have to say, hey, use blank prompt to give me this output on this thing, right? And it can do it. Um, and so, if you are a person who were trying to build a startup around something like that in 2024, your business probably doesn't exist anymore. But that doesn't mean that AI is less of a big deal, right? It just means that we don't know what companies are going to be providing that kind of value down the line across all these categories.
From this company called Chloe,
Say it again. Oh
Cluly.
yeah, 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 yeah. I've seen them.
The Anderson guy, 16Z, was mentioning that most of these companies are media company, right? AI media company. So whoever's pretty much able to get eyeballs, attention to the company
Uh-huh.
is gonna make it pretty much versus somebody that's not. So like how important it is in today's age, to create content and put yourself out there, whether it's podcast, short form, or whatever that may be. And you can just tell, and the product's not even that good from what people are telling us, just like these kids got kicked out because they were cheating and all, right? But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see, who's actually raising these funds and who's able to really make it out.
Yeah, Cooley is a funny one.
Yeah,
But, to your point, like I don't think anyone knows kind of where any of these products are heading, what the use cases for them are going to be in the long term. Like
yeah.
if Cluely is even going to be this thing that people are using to cheat, or if it turns into like some screen workflow thing that you can just like it knows what's on your screen and it can just help you through what you're working on. And the funny thing is ChatGPT can already do that, right? Like if you share your screen with ChatGPT and you're working on some shit, it'll just be like, ah, no, click there. Okay, click here. Okay, now do this, and it'll literally walk you through whatever you need to do for whatever you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, uh, it's a wave. It's a very big wave. It's in the same way that the internet changed the world. It's going to change the world, and there's really nothing anyone can do about it. Like anyone who's like that is lamenting that and afraid of that should just like get on board and realize that like the more they use these tools, the better off they're going to be. And I think ultimately, you should try to position yourself there. In line with that, also it's funny. Mr. Torres texted me. He said, "Darren, the early payment plan is working. Got a response from 3 customers. We might get a response tomorrow." So I guess people are paying early to kind of save a little bit of bread there, which will be of very good value add here because we need give us the money. Show me the. Have you ever seen that movie? What's that movie with fuck? Um, is that what's this guy? Tom Cruise, where he was a sports agent and he's like, "Show me the money, show me." Epic movie,
Jerry Maguire.
epic movie. I can't remember the name of it, but Jerry Maguire. Wow, epic movie. I just
Yeah.
remember Rod Tidwell. That was the name of the football players in it. But yeah, okay, moving on from that. What else do we have going on here? UPS is talking about robots sped up their returns by 40%. Interesting, right? I think w- uh a lot of what the to this point, a lot of what people are talking about now, there's a couple of conversations that I think are happening like in line with AI, right? Because it used to be with AI, they were talking about like, oh, like the big term was like, when is it going to be artificial general intelligence, right? When are we going to get AGI, right? And it's funny now that they've moved the goalposts from when are we going to get AGI to when are we going to get ASI, which is artificial super intelligence, right? Which means that is undoubtedly smarter than every human on the planet at every task, but then on top of that, the conversation is happening around when robotics is going to have like the chat GPT moment, right? And a lot of the people that are working on these, like Elon and Tesla are working on like Optimus. And there's another startup called Figure that's doing like a humanoid form factor. A lot of them seem to be saying that this is coming pretty soon in the next few years, that we're going to have that moment where it's like, oh, actually robots are a thing now, and they're gonna become one of those things that are everywhere, and everyone's gonna have a robot in their house that's gonna like help them clean up and like help do whatever there is to do around the house.
I
And I
think in the
think
next few years, right, it's pretty close. even, to roll out.
For sure. And now imagine that across labor, right? Like a warehouse, for instance, right? And if you have, a robot, one or two that are just like crushing away in the in the warehouse, 100 per, all day, don't need breaks, water, you know,
Yeah, there's
labor.
already many humans working in Amazon. There are as many robots, actually,
I didn't
just
know that.
weeks ago. So, and it's just 2025. And look at what in other news, there was Uber's trying to do 20,000 autonomous, these vehicles trying to roll out. And look at how many jobs that's going to take away. And, Tesla robotaxi. So pretty much, the question is AI going to take away your jobs? Person that's using AI, I mean, that's the feedback what all the AI CEOs talk about, right? So pretty much you got to be able to manage AI, learn about AI, and, and, and kind of go above and beyond to do these jobs you know, and just be more productive, right? So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, who actually takes advantage of, this technology and.
Well, it reminds you, remember like a month ago where we hopped on and we didn't have shit to talk about and we didn't have topics and we are like, we need more content, right? And so we sat there and there was like 18, 20 minutes. And I'm like, all right, let me just show you guys how I would do it with AI if I was like the content manager of our company, right? And I sat there and in 20 minutes I had like a very like, you know, decent article. It was 80% of the way there. I had scripts for YouTube videos that you could input into some video generators, right? And then I remember the video that it made was like it wasn't trash, right? It was like it was a fine video. Like it's better than a lot of videos that I see, right, online. Uh and so when you think about that, and I did that in 20 minutes, right? And it was like articles, tweets, it was the whole thing, a couple videos. And so if you think about that and you think about someone who's able to use AI and you are competing against that person, right? So imagine if I'm applying for a job, right, as like a content person, right? And I'm able to do that. And then the other person is, still doing shit the normal way. Like it you're going to lose your job to me in that instance, right? Not necessarily to some agent, right? That's like going to do all the work. Although I do think that that is coming down the line. You're going to lose your job to the person who's very effective at using the tool, right? And the same thing is going to happen for different reasons in the robotic space, right? Which kind of brings up the question that Alicia had here for us, which is like efficiency versus labor concerns. Like, is it a concern that warehouse workers are going to lose their jobs, right? Like, how do you feel about that?
I mean, there's still gonna be need of people to do jobs behind AI and these robots to manage them. But any simple jobs, just like a UPS saying robots sped up returns by 40%. And most of these companies want to be profitable, and they got their stock market, and they want to look good on paper and the whole deal, right? So you're seeing all this crazy news about robots and technology and automation and all of this because everyone's trying to one up one another to show that they're actually more effective and they're more profitable than somebody that's not using technology and stuff. So I think that's why we're kind of adapting a lot more technology and encouraging people. Like, isn't it crazy? The stat was like 60% of the people are still not using AI and ChatGPT.
Which is a crazy number when you
Crazy
think
enough
about
to
that.
think about. Um, so yeah, I definitely think if you're not already in 2020, I mean, if you haven't used AI for most of the people out there, you're behind already by many, many years. And there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube you can just go and watch just to catch up to speed on, simple forms and how you can day to day use, AI and, I mean, yeah, there's free versions, but it would be nice if you can get the $20 membership, because you can do a lot more. All right. I mean, just for example, you get a lot of legal notices, letters that you don't want to go read through, right? Scan it, put it in like 20-page legal notice letter, or then you might have to go to the lawyer. And you're gonna spend $500. You can throw that into you know, the AI, and they'll give you a summary and kind of give you feedback. Isn't that crazy? Just like a year or 2 years ago, we were actually going to lawyers, and they would take 3 days to do this. And most of these law firms and these lawyers are now hiring AI experts to come in and help them, right? Because even now they're using it. And it'll be interesting to talk to these lawyers and like, hey, how much are you charging now? And when can you get me back? So again, there's a lot of potential business ideas out there that people are, working on, and because lawyers, healthcare, it's profitable niche, areas where, yeah, I mean, it is getting wild out there, man.
Yeah.
Other new, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, no, no. Just on that point, I think it's going to be interesting because there's going to be kind of like this bifurcation, if you will, like, because, things like being a lawyer or being a doctor that you need these like certifications for, right, are probably a little bit more insulated from, like if you're a doctor, you're not going to lose your job like as fast to AI, right? Because in order for someone to practice medicine, they have to have had gone through the rigmarole of like, going to college, going to med school, doing a residency somewhere. Similar process with a lawyer. And so there's these kind of unions, if you will, of like doctors and lawyers that are going to keep the AI out of like their, other than like in the admin space, right? But, kind of to the second point here that Alicia had for us, there's going to be a lot of, like we'll call it like simple jobs, simple labor that are going to get dislocated. I feel like in 10 years, you'll be hard pressed to find like human beings still doing a lot of this stuff, right? But there are gains to be had, right? So to Alicia's point here for number two, it's like Happy Returns can it says they're going to be able to unload trucks soon with robots, right? What does that do for waiting times and for dock delays, right? I think that's actually an amazing thing, right? Now these trucks are going to be moving in and out of these warehouses, getting loaded and unloaded in way more efficient manner, right? And that is a good thing. And I guess there's an argument to be made there of whether or not, people, could and should be doing some of this labor, right? Like if it's too difficult or too hard on the body or, like whatever the justification would be. We'll probably be having similar conversations around, up near Livermore there. There's like the Central Valley there, a lot of agricultural labor, right, which will very likely be dislocated. And it'll be like, well, I mean, we already had a lot of undocumented people doing this work and getting paid under the table and maybe being mistreated and things like that. So how bad is this for that? I don't know. Now, there's going to be, some negative knock-on effects, but I think all in all, it could end up being more or less a good thing because it just frees up human potential on some level.
So what else we got here? UP exploring deal to buy Norfolk Southern BNSF Rail. Big companies, man, merging and buying one another.
Oh, who's that?
UP Rail,
Shit. Of
Norfolk stock went up 3.8.
course.
Find so many other interesting news here.
And what about you? How do you feel about, particularly on let's say on the robotic side, like how do you feel about robots working in the warehouse? How do you feel about them loading and unloading trucks? How do you feel if you're a truck driver and you pull up to the dock doors and like two prime robots walk out there on their R2D2 or
So this year, I spoke to a few drivers that have mentioned to me that, nearby Niagara Water and Amazon, they're loading trucks with robots. What the robot does is it goes into your trailer first and inspects the trailer. And one of these, last week I was talking to one of the drivers. He's like, the robot rejected my trailer and it's like whole, which a human probably would have not seen. Isn't that crazy to think about?
that
So,
is.
so yeah, it's getting wild. And I mean, the fact that they're already loading full truck loads into trailers, and some warehouses are fully, they only got one crew member working there, and fully, they're being loaded and unloaded with the robot forklifts. Yeah, I mean, the bigger companies like Amazon and, Fortune 500 companies are able to afford that kind of technology. over time, yeah, it's gonna get cheaper for warehouses like us to be able to afford, and invest into one of those robots. And I think the Tesla robot is gonna change the game because over the years, if you look at the history, right, solar panels usually cost $30,000 to $50,000 or plus. Tesla came out with a twelve to
Uh-huh.
$15,000 solar panels. Boom. That's three times less cost, right?
Uh-huh.
What else? The Tesla insurance, minus all the sales reps. I mean, they're getting a lot of pushback, like, hey, they're taking away a lot of jobs and all, so you can just look at all across the industries. Elon is just trying to be effective, efficient, and fast, right? So just crazy how he's able to change a lot of the industries. And there was like an interesting video somebody had posted that I watched. He's like, yeah, he's really trying to build stuff here, try to prep for the Mars. So whatever he's doing is trying
Facts.
to plan for to be on the Mars, like all of the technology that he's working on, all of that's gonna be much more effective by being on Mars one day. But people think it's crazy. He is crazy. It takes somebody crazy to do something like that.
To your point about the economics, right, for someone like a company like ours to buy a robot, let's think through that actually. Like, so we're probably paying a guy, they're probably making 50 grand a year,
60, yeah, easily, yeah.
you know? Like, I think they're saying that these robots are gonna cost 50 grand, bro. Dog, that's
The thing is, like, it's not that a lot of jobs are gonna be taken away. That means we're gonna be able to maximize and help more customers by adding on, one or two robots into our warehouse. So hey, that makes sense.
yeah. 100%. We could do more. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting decade, man. Like as a lot of this stuff rolls out and starts to happen, and we start to see how work and life changes, right? Like you talked about the difference between post-COVID, pre-COVID, and post-COVID, right? Like this has been a very short 5-year window where like a lot has changed, right? And now, let's say AI started 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, right? And kind of where it's already gotten to. Now, like, what does that 5 years out look like, right? What does 10 years out look like? It's a crazy, crazy thing to ponder. Um, but there'll be some dislocation, there'll be some job loss, there'll be some people who catch the trend and use the technology how they should use it. Companies will do the same thing. And I think on net, it will be a positive because I think the thing that gets left out of a lot of these conversations about work and people jobs is that if it's cheaper en masse to deliver goods and services, then everything gets cheaper, right? Like we don't live in this world where the prices of everything are just consistently inflating. It's like, no, actually maybe things start to cost less, right? Maybe this sweater doesn't cost as much, that shirt doesn't cost as much, right? A house doesn't cost as much, right? Because the labor component that goes into building it just simply doesn't cost as much, right? And so I think and it's more of an optimistic take, right? And I think ultimately uh the further we get into this, I think it's best to be a little more optimistic. Not to say that there won't be some pain in between. Again, if it gets easier to deliver goods and services, if it gets easier to produce food, if it gets easier to build houses, I don't see how that could be a bad thing for society. Well, all right. You have any like hot takes you want to get off your chest or what?
Met a TQL compliance manager yesterday who was with TQL for 14 years, and he had a lot of great stories, about fraud, EFS, com data checks, how they were scammed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars by somebody that um, was getting information from TQL by calling in and getting a bunch of com checks, and he was able to do that for about 3 months. And then they actually had to get how to tackle that. And we were actually hit by one of these freight frauds 2 years ago, also with EFS. So yeah, yeah, trucking can be challenging. And just a few months back, there was an invoice for $12,000 that almost got paid, and it was by Darian Weems, but with a double D or something. So yeah, people need to be really cautious about, what they say AI technology. A lot of people are gonna be able to misuse the technology and do crime pretty much. I mean, criminals are gonna do crime. They're gonna fight. way. So there's gonna be always a lot of interesting stories that we'll again try to share, right? That could help others now get hit by that, that definitely need to be put out there. What I'm meaning to say, so people can in the industry can help one another by sharing these stories where, hey, it might be just small mistake that can cost you a lot of money that, can hurt a mom and pop business.
100%. Sorry, Suki's texting me. I think that that's a poignant point to end on, Tal. Criminals are gonna do crime, my friend. Right? The criminals are gonna do crime. Although I will say that hopefully, as the technology gets better, so does the mechanisms for detecting the crime, right? Like obviously the people who stop the crime are gonna have the same technology, and so hopefully, and that's probably a good place to go into, right? Like if you're like a young person, what is it called? Not like data science, but like what's it called when you're trying to like stop people from like stealing your information and all that stuff online? Those people are going to be a lot more
Yeah.
in
Cybersecurity,
there
yeah.
we go. Cybersecurity is going to be a lot in demand. So
That's one of the hot jobs out there. So the main takeaway was it's actually pretty interesting that most of these are our customers, brokers, they're coming out to actually see, your business operation underway, right? Meaning your truck yards, your warehouse, and that has been rising, right? Which is a
uh
good thing. Sorry.
no, no, go. Sorry. I was just
Which is
saying,
a good thing for, the brokers and carriers should do actually a better job of putting yourselves out there that you're actually one of the good ones, because a lot of times these brokers and customers don't know who's hauling your freight, how they're managing it. And Tico Rep was mentioning that they had a big solar project and which was supposed to be kept indoors. And when they went out to meet their warehousing team, they had all of their product outside, sitting outside, which would have cost them a lot of money. It's one of those things, right? Just like this AI project that we landed. We're seeing big demand and incoming AI infrastructure being built, and which is good for us, and we're one of the companies that can, handle volume and, high, what's the word I'm trying to say?
transactions
The product, higher, you know,
or high value
high value cargo, right? Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I mean, you get, it's great that, I told them, hey, it's great that, we always welcome visits from our customers to come out and actually see us, in action. And the other warehousing team actually double stacked those AI, infrastructure HVAC systems, and ended up damaging millions of dollars of worth of equipment, which was, you know, which kind of even pains us from seeing another company doing that to a customer, especially with AI
100%.
coming in, you gotta take good care of your customers, right?
And it's why people shouldn't be skimping out on the rates, man. You want to pay a cheap rate, you're gonna get a cheap service, my friends.
Yeah.
All right. Pay up, friends. Well, all right. Well, with that, this has been another episode of Shift Happens with myself, Derry Williams, CEO of Jan Stridge.
Mental thing, and hey, we'll love to hear more feedback. I know this is our first year doing the podcast thing, and we definitely want to improve, and we will appreciate anybody's feedback on, and yeah, I think, Alicia, Kim, a lot of ladies, keep us in check and, keep us going. We'll see you guys next week.
Shout out to the team. See y'all next week. Have a good one. Bye.